Evolution is big news, so let's hope we hit the mark with our selection of primary and secondary resources to teach the topic. They are an award-winning pop-up book, a humorous book of facts and quizzes, a comprehensive workbook and CD-ROM, and a website that munches peppered moths. 2009 is a special year for science. It's the bicentenary of the birth of Charles Darwin and the 150th anniversary of the publication of The Origin of Species. So, in homage to the great man, today's resource review will be looking at primary and secondary resources for teaching evolution. Today's programme is coming from the Science Learning Centre, London, but we'll also be visiting schools to find out what teachers and pupils think. And we'll have a report from Alam Shaha at the Science Learning Centre London's recent Looking Forward to Darwin 200 event, where organisations showcase their new resources and activities. Here's a taste of what's on offer.
Free educational visits, everyone.
We'll have more from the Looking Forward to Darwin 200 event later in the programme, but first, recommending today's primary resources, we have Michelle Grimshaw. Michelle teaches at Marsden Community Primary School in Nelson in Lancashire, and Michelle was named Primary Science Teacher of the Year in 2006. Joining Michelle on the panel today, we have Tim Roberts. Tim is Senior Lecturer in Primary Science at the University of Hertfordshire. And we also have Dr. Christine Khwaja. Christine is Principal Lecturer in Primary Science at Middlesex University. Welcome all to the show. Now, Michelle, this is your first resource for us.
This is my first resource.
The Story of Everything, a very intriguing looking pop-up book. Tell us why you like this.
Okay, let's turn to the first page.
Wow, it's a very dramatic pop-up book.
It is, it is. I really couldn't believe my luck when I found this, and it really appealed to me. It excited me, and I thought if it excites me, it's going to excite my class.
What's in the book? I mean, the story of everything.
The story of everything, yeah. We go from that, we go as the explosion expanded outwards, and we get, you know, how the planet was formed. Really love this one. This is the fish, fins and things, and this is going from how fish evolved and became amphibians. And then we go further on into the book, we get how dinosaurs died out, and then the mammals, and then of course we get human beings.
Fantastic. And who do you think this book is best aimed at?
Well, I've used it with Year 4, Year 5 and Year 6, and successfully, and children are really motivated to go and have a look and to find out more.
Okay, thanks very much, Michelle. Well, to see whether the story of everything really is everything a teacher needs, we're going to visit Kate Savage and her Year 3 class at Churchfield Primary School in Edmonton, North London.
So today we're going to be learning all about evolution, and we're going to use
We've been using the book in small group work, doing guided reading sessions so the children can interact with the book with themselves or with their partner. We've also been using it in whole class work alongside our topic work about animals and evolution.
The sun was like not just a star, it's like a big star that's close to Earth.
I like the pop-up parts of the book because the children can engage with it and can find out things perhaps that they didn't know from the pictures if they can't read the text. It also helped answer a lot of questions that the children thought they knew the answer to, but from reading the book were able to find out the correct answer.
Look, this one has a spiky background.
I think it's a suitable resource for children in Year 3 because at that age they can understand some of the difficult concepts in the book, and also it clarifies some of the misunderstandings that they might have had about the world and how it began.
I think it's a rhino. Yeah, right. Rhinos. But it looks like it will turn into a giraffe.
I would certainly use it again because there's lots more information and work that I want to do using the book as a resource, and the children thoroughly enjoyed it, so I will definitely be using it again.
Take That's it. The end.
Christine, what are your thoughts about the story of everything?
I agree with some of the comments that Michelle has made. I think it's a really nice, bright, colourful book. I would have it in the classroom for children in year 2. Not necessarily because I wouldn't use it for guided reading, but it is certainly a nice information book for children to have to look at in small groups if it was something that interested them. And I think it would capture their imaginations, particularly these lovely illustrations, which have that childlike quality to them. So I think it answers some of the questions about how change has occurred, and particularly this page where we're linking the precursors of current species that children will be familiar with. My only criticism of the book is just this page about how humans appeared. This idea of all of a sudden there weren't any apes. They weren't apes anymore, they were human beings. And I think in evolution, the key point with evolution is that things take a long time to happen. Nothing happens suddenly.
Is that something that you had picked up on?
It is, yes. It's something that I was concerned about, and with my own class, I spent time going through that topic again.
Right. Okay, Tim, what do you make of the story of everything?
Yeah, I think that good comments have been made, and I would echo them all. I think that certainly when you open the first page, you can't fail to be amazed, and the children would get a lot out of just that one page. I do wonder if we're isolating certain faiths when we're talking about evolution, but that's not necessarily for this discussion. I particularly like the page with the fish, fins and things. I think that certainly the fold-out book really helps explain survival of the fittest, which is something that is possibly slightly difficult to get across at primary level. I really like the illustrations. I think the illustrations in a sort of childish way enable the children to engage far more with the book than sort of very formal scientific illustrations. I also particularly like the last page where it's highlighting that, you know, what's going to happen next. And I think that's something that's on a lot of children's minds and a lot of teachers' minds at the moment.
Well, thank you all very much. Michelle, let's move on to your second choice of resource for us today.
Okay.
It's from the Horrible Science series, and it's called Evolve or Die. We're looking at the 2008 edition here. Tell us about this book and why you like it.
Okay, I'm using it at the moment as part of the Interdependence and Adaptation unit in the QCA Science. It's just jam-packed full of different facts about evolution. It's also got quite a lot on Darwin and his life history, and I'm using it in part of the biographies for Year 6. I think it's also got potential to be used for able and talented children. The bit that I really do like, it's the timeline, and I think that's fantastic. It's sort of really good for children to be able to do their own research there. It's nice little chunks, easily absorbed. And there's quite a bit on Darwin and the Galapagos Islands, so I found it interesting to read. So.
Okay, thanks very much. Well, let's go back to Churchfield Primary School because I'm dying to see whether our teacher, Kate Holland, and her Year 6 class liked Evolve or Die.
Okay, so our learning objective this afternoon is to compose music individually or in groups using a range of stimuli. The stimuli we're using this afternoon to help us compose our evolution rap is Evolve or Die. Okay, and we've been looking. What I really like about the book is that it's very child friendly. It engaged them straight away because of the language that was used in the book, especially a description about how instead of teachers bombarding us with facts, they should start every lesson by saying once upon a time. Was it really, really hot all the way through all those millions of years?
No, 4,500 million years ago.
I use this book with Year 6 and I think it's perfect for Year 6s. Maybe the higher end of Year 5 children would be able to access the text, and also Year 7s, I think. There are some parts where the text is quite lengthy and dense, so maybe to break that down a little bit.
3, 4. The earth gets hotter and drier. It feels like a big chip fryer. Reptiles evolved into dinosaurs. I didn't know some of them were herbivores.
The pupils really enjoyed reading the book and using it as part of their learning. It was very engaging for them, very easy for them to access, and they really enjoyed finding out about evolution using this book.
It began to have a really bad smell. Yum!
Tim, what did you think of Evolve or Die?
With all the horrible science series, with all the horrible history series, I think they're fantastic books. I think they're books that will engage the children, because I think perhaps it's a book that might be an independent reading book that children might want to take out. Things that I'm particularly pleased to see is that Mendel the Monk and a few others like Hippocrates have got a mention, sometimes people that are overlooked with evolution. I really enjoy the sections that you're too embarrassed. It says here, dinosaur facts. Facts your teachers are too embarrassed to tell you. I think they're really good, and that's the bit that the children will really enjoy, because they're thinking they're getting one up on a teacher, which sometimes is quite a buzz for a child to get.
When you mention if poo goes down well.
Yes, yes, always, always.
That's a bit of toilet humour. Yeah. Christine, you were nodding there with Tim's comments. What do you think?
I really enjoyed this book as well. I couldn't imagine using the whole book with a class, but certainly I would think this would appeal to able Year 5 and Year 6 children. I could see children wanting to take this home and read it independently, and it's also relatively cheap, so you could have several copies in the classroom. I also liked throughout the book where it has test your teacher. I think children would enjoy testing the teacher, and there's a useful quiz at the back of the book to sum up the chapters. And I think this book is actually quite useful for teachers just to gen up on the topic themselves, because it introduces them to the ideas that they will go on to teach the children. And I certainly advise my students, if they're tackling a topic that they're not very confident with, start with a book aimed at children, because that gives them a really good intro.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Just to recap, the two primary resources that we've looked at today are The Story of Everything, published by Hodder Children's Books, and Evolve or Die in the Horrible Science series, published by Scholastic Children's Books. Thank you very much to our primary panel, to Michelle, to Christine and to Tim. Now, before I'm joined by our secondary guests, many of the Darwin 200 organisations have recently exhibited the activities and the resources that they're developing for the Darwin 200 initiative here at the Science Learning Centre. Science teacher Alom Shaha went along to see what's on offer.
So Laura, you're from the Natural History Museum. What are you guys doing for Darwin 200?
We've got a number of activities specifically related to the concept of evolution. Our biggest one for secondary schools is the Great Debate, which is an activity where we try to bring to life the controversy surrounding the publication of The Origin of Species in 1859. We take the students on a tour of the galleries and then they try and recreate the debate in the gallery space.
Okay, very exciting. Thank you very much. Hi, Jonathan. You're from Evolution Mega Lab, which sounds really exciting. What exactly is it?
Well, it's a study of these snails that we have here. These are called banded snails. The fascinating thing about these snails is that you can see the genes. They carry them on their backs. So what we're doing is people have actually studied this for something like 50 or 60 years. And we've gathered all the historical data and we put it onto a Google map so you can see where it was collected. And if you go to evolutionmegalab.org, you can find a population near you that was studied. You can then go back there, you can find out what's there, put the data into our website, and we'll give you an email telling you if there's been any evolutionary change since the time when they were first studied.
It sounds like a really exciting project. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
I know Wellcome Trust are funding lots of the activities for Darwin 200. What kind of resources are you producing for teachers?
Okay, we're producing a kit of resources for secondary schools, 3 boxes for different age groups, and they're all going to contain all the teachers' notes, lesson plans, technician notes, everything you need to do the lessons in your school, and it's all free.
Hi, can you tell me a little about what London Zoo are doing for Darwin 200?
Sure, we're running an education session for secondary students that they can come into the zoo and we're going to tell them a little bit about Darwin.
And who are these characters?
These are part of how we demonstrate natural selection. So this is their food resource, some nice seeds we've got there. We've got the big beak birds and the small beak bird, and as you can see, the little one really struggles and the big one's able to pick them up. So this one unfortunately would really die out.
Okay, brilliant. Well, thanks for your help.
Okay, you're welcome.
Cheers, bye. So Bob, where can teachers find out more about where to get these resources from?
Well, you begin with going to the website www.darwin200.org. That's where we list all of the main organisations which are involved, and also we run a database of all the activities. Along with that, there's press releases, there's maps of activities across the country, so you'll find a whole load of routes into resources from that website.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks for your time.
Lovely.
Cheers.
My pleasure.
Well, now I'm joined by our secondary experts, and recommending today's resources is Julie Collins. Julie is the Science Subject Leader, PGCE, Liverpool Hope University. Joining Julie on the panel today, we have Tom MacDonald, Leader of Biology at John Cabot Academy in Bristol, and Sarah Fennell, a Science Teacher at Woodcote High School in Coulsdon, Surrey. Now, Julie, the first resource that you've chosen for us today, it's from Biozone, and it's their Evolution Modular Workbook and CD-ROM. Tell us about this resource and what makes it stand out for you.
Okay, it's a PowerPoint presentation CD, an enormous PowerPoint with over 200 slides in it. It covers evolution, the history of evolutionary theory. It's a sort of PowerPoint presentation that would take hours and hours and hours to produce yourself. It's very visually appealing, masses of information in there. There's some interesting ones there, like the whale ancestors.
Okay.
There's a few slides related to that, which I think are interesting examples that will just enrich your teaching of the subject, really. And the evolution topic is something that there aren't many resources around for. They're also editable.
Right, I was going to say, are they fixed? No.
They're editable because you can pick and choose the ones that match your specification then.
Right,
Not
okay.
all of them are relevant to Key Stage 4. Some of them are beyond Key Stage 4. And some of them are actually beyond A level.
And what about the workbook that goes with it? Tell us a little bit about that.
The workbook is a sort of hybrid between a textbook and a worksheet, really. A big selection of stuff that is related to the CD-ROM.
Okay.
It isn't all strictly relevant for Key Stage 4 or for A level, so again, it's pick and choose.
Okay, thanks Julie. Well, to see how the CD-ROM and workbook works out in the classroom, we're going over to join James Williams now and his Year 10 class at Riddlesdown High School in Purley, Surrey.
Today we're going to be talking about the concepts of Darwinism and natural selection. Now, I'm assuming you've all heard of Charles Darwin, you've covered this.
First off, I introduced the topic, sort of introduced them to new information through talking and using the PowerPoint at the same time. And then basically what I did was I tested their knowledge by getting them to use the workbook, fill in the questions and then discuss their answers as a class. I was using it with a majority of Year 10 and also one Year 9, all gifted and talented pupils, so they're an extension group.
Disruptive sort of happens right in the middle, so it moves on both sides.
So you sort of more went into sort of going down the route of explaining what's actually happening.
What I like about the resource is that it's very detailed, there's plenty of information in there, it gives you plenty of scope as to how you want to approach a topic. There's, you know, good diagrams, it's well set out, and everything you've got there, you know, it covers everything within a certain topic, so that's quite useful.
You will see a very similar diagram to this one on the board. Darwin's theory, page 40.
Well, the CD-ROM is quite easy to access. It's all there for you, so you can just open it up. It's pretty easy to get started. You've got that single file. It's editable, so you can change it as you see fit. What I don't like about the CD-ROM is that, in effect, it is just a single PowerPoint, albeit a very long one. But you know, you're paying quite a large amount of money for a very long PowerPoint, and it's not a very complicated PowerPoint. I mean, there's plenty of things you can do with PowerPoint nowadays, and it doesn't have many bells or whistles, and sometimes the children do respond quite well to some clever features of it, and there's no functionality for interactive whiteboard sort of interactivity. The age group I think it's best suited for would be Key Stage 5. I feel it's a bit too complex for Key Stage 4 and below. I think you'd struggle to find a syllabus that would require that amount of information about a given topic.
Sarah, what do you make of this resource?
I really like some of the resources that it's got about the fossil record, particularly this page here. The one thing I would say is I don't actually see myself buying the workbooks. I like the PowerPoint because it's got lots of information that I can use in lots of different ways, but I don't see myself buying the workbooks. I just think they're too inexpensive resource.
But to give you some ideas, you could perhaps use the workbook,
yes,
and then use your CD-ROM.
Yeah.
If you couldn't afford, right? So that's sort of one way a teacher could
absolutely.
use it. Okay, Tom, what do you think?
Well, I really like the PowerPoint presentations. I completely agree. I think they're very well presented and they're very well laid out. I do think there's the huge range of information that they provide is overwhelming for Key Stage 4, and so it is really a case of picking and choosing. But I can see some really interesting ways of picking out particular slides and perhaps setting it as part of a research task and providing the information for students. I do like the workbook as well. There are some really interesting activities in there. I just picked out one, this gene pool exercise, which is not just a worksheet, and so it's a little bit more active learning again. So overall, I think, yeah, it's a valuable resource, but I think it's just overpriced for what you can actually do with it.
Well, thank you all very much. Time now to move on to Julie's second choice of resource for us today, which is a free website about peppered moths. Explain this one to us, Julie.
Okay, well, it's got some history of Kettlewell's work with peppered moths from the 1950s, and it's got some useful background information about peppered moth's life cycle and pollution. So it gives the background. It's not too wordy, but there is quite a lot of information there. But the bit I like the best is the interactive animation. The user plays the part of a bird predator that's feeding on the peppered moths, and they've got to eat as many as they can in a time period. And you can look at the end at figures that show how many of the melanic, the dark variety, were actually eaten and how many of the lighter variety were eaten, and actually get some figures out of it at the end. I like it also because it's a great short activity, so it's good for adding a bit of variety in your lesson, really.
Thank you. Well, now let's go back to Riddlesdown High School, where teacher Holly Power and her Year 10 class are using the website. Let's see whether they're drawn to it like moths to a flame.
Good afternoon, Year 11. Today, as you can see, we're going to be talking about natural selection and being able to understand some examples of natural selection. We're going to talk about peppered moths, because it's a really, really good example of natural selection, an easy way to see it actually happening.
We use mainly the PowerPoint for the part of the lesson where we were trying to get the information across to the children about how pollution affected the evolution of the peppered moth, and then we use the animation, the game at the end as well.
Oh wow! Yes, to the right. Down, down, get it. Down, no, up.
Quick, okay, so your forest started with 50% light moths and 50% dark moths. Now there are 37% light moths left.
I really liked the game. It was a really good interactive way of getting the pupils to understand exactly the selection pressures on the moth. I think the students responded the same way as I did to the resource. They really enjoyed the game, and I think it really consolidated their understanding.
Like, usually just learn it via a textbook, and it doesn't really sink in as well as a fun activity like that.
People find it more interesting playing games and everything, so it gets everyone's attention.
I think it would be better to have it on individual computers because then everyone can use it at the same time.
It'd be easier to use it if they had their own computers for the game, because it would mean that everyone could have a go. In terms of the PowerPoint, it'd be easier to read if they were sat in front of it on a screen, but I still think that there's too much information for the majority of Year 11 pupils to maintain interest. It was really interesting, the information that was on there, but it'd be good to kind of see it in a more readable format. As it stands, I think the PowerPoint would be more useful for a Year 12 group who are studying evolution, just because of the sheer level of information that they're expecting to kind of understand. So I definitely use the resource again, especially the game. I think it'd be good to use a PowerPoint as part of a lesson, but maybe not for the whole thing.
Julie, I like the look of this website, but I have heard that since Kettlewell's experiments, some of his approach has been discredited somewhat, and I was just wondering whether that was a problem with this website.
Yeah, there has been some debate about that.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a problem. I think there's some how science works learning to be had there in saying to the children, you know, this was an idea that was tested out, and then afterwards some other scientists argued with his methods, and that's what happens in science, isn't it? Yeah. So I don't think that should prevent us from using it, because I think you can still get some good learning out of it.
Sarah, what do you make of it?
If to use it in the classroom, I'd like to actually have the students in an ICT suite using it individually, so that then we could get some class-wide data and different students having different data that we can then analyse and look at the different criteria that they use and how many they've eaten and things like that. But also some kind of a worksheet for them to work through the background information. You know, that's what I would do.
And you think it would be worth it to make use of this resource?
Definitely. Definitely.
Okay. Right, okay. Tom, what do you make of this website?
I think as a model of how natural selection leads to evolution and how populations change over time, this is really very neat. It's very clear, it's quantitative, which I really like. It is well presented, it's one of the nicest versions of this animation I've seen. There are other ones around, but I think this one is very clever. I do like the fact that it's got a lot of extra information. I like the fact, but I also like the fact you can skip through that, because I think there's an awful lot of information in there that's not really accessible to Key Stage 4 students in the format it's in. But as the animation, as the star of it, it works really well.
Great, well thank you all very much. I'm sorry, but that's all we've got time for today. Just to recap on the 2 secondary resources that we've looked at, they are the Evolution Workbook and CD-ROM from the Biology Modular Workbook series, published by Biozone Learning UK Limited, and the Peppered Moths website, produced by Craig Tevis. For more information on these and the primary resources that we looked at, as well as the resources featured in the Looking Forward to Darwin 200 event, you can go to our website. It's www.teachers.tv/resource review, or if you want to, email us resourcereview@teachers.tv. A big thank you to our secondary panel, to Julie, to Sarah and to Tom, and thank you for watching. Goodbye.